Hey everybody, it's Tim Garvin coming to you from Southport Country Club. I hope we're all well. I'm here with John Grossman, president of the golf club, Jeannie Gavinchek in charge of communications and on the board, and Tim Brenneman. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Tim, and just let you lead the conversation.
Great. Great. Thank you, Tim, and hi everybody. Really excited to spend some time today. We wanted to talk about back nine renovation, what we've learned since we last communicated to the membership. And we really like this format, so we're going to call this a roundtable, and we're just going to have a conversation with you, the membership. Gives us an opportunity to speak to you rather than just send a letter out, but we're going to make all of this public, so we'll have follow-up communication with the membership. We'll put the survey results out there online for you. That'll all be attached to this, so this will all be very transparent for you moving forward, but wanted to spend some time today and just give you a comprehensive update on where we are. And so, John, really first question to you, and this is an overarching one. Just wanted you to comment a little bit about the year that was in 2021. I know it was a big challenge for us, but we've come through it, I think, very well, and wanted to have you talk to the membership a little bit about it.
Sure. Hi, everyone. First of all, big thanks to Tim Garvin, our Director of Golf and Operations, his entire staff, and the Board of Directors. This was a very challenging year where we dealt with things like club management, staff housing, and in general on the eastern end of Long Island, we've had the same issues as we've had at South Fork being the metaphor. So we've gotten through it. We're really happy with what's happened here in terms of how we've dealt with our management. I think everybody can agree it was a great year, challenging year, but we've got a lot to look forward to and to move on to.
Yeah, thanks. And I know the entire board, and I would imagine the entire membership feels the same way. A debt of gratitude to Tim and the entire staff here at South Fork, from Chef Matt to Frank to Chris. Real team effort, and we're just so appreciative of the way the team came together. We were severely understaffed, and we had a lot of people working as a team, and really as a member you never noticed it other than a friendly face in the serving line or at the bar that you weren't used to because they're usually out giving golf lessons, but they were on the serving line some nights. So really appreciate that kind of help. And to me, the big highlight in 2021 was the centennial celebration, and we had so many members participate in that, and in spite of the staffing related issues, I thought that came off just beautifully, and we've gotten so much positive feedback from the membership. So thanks again, Tim. John, as a follow-up, we want to get into capital projects and then more specifically the back nine, and we'll get into some very specific questions here, but wondered if you could just comment on the overarching perspective the board has on capital projects and then specifically the back nine.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we look at. We do focus on housing for our staff. That's a big issue out here, as I mentioned. But we are a golf club, and that is our amenity, and that is what we're focusing on. There are no definitives at this point. Gil Hans isn't quite ready to commit. We're working on it with him. We expect that perhaps by 2022, we would be able to renovate 16, 17, and 18 on the back nine. And in terms of the numbers, we're looking at something like $2 million based on what we've been able to pull out of this. But again, we don't have anything specifically outlining the numbers. We just know that Gil is looking towards 3 holes in 2022 and perhaps the balance in 2023.
Or
Right.
2024, maybe.
Or 2024, we really don't know. We haven't given out information because it comes very sparingly. They're a very busy organization.
They are, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but before we do, I wanted to make a couple of comments about the member survey. We really appreciate the members' participation here. We had 290 individual members participate. We'll be putting this out here. Tim, we're going to attach the results to this video, I believe.
Correct.
So
Yes.
all of that information will be available to you. No big surprise, I would say. What we were really interested in was not necessarily the members' view, yes or no, because we haven't put any kind of plan out there, but we tried to identify concerns so that as we go through this process, we have an opportunity to consider those concerns and answer as many of those as possible as we think through this potential project. The feedback we received was timing, design, and cost were sort of the three key areas. And certainly we're going to talk about those areas today, but we're going to have more information. We'll be very transparent with this as we move forward. Overall, I would say that there is a split among the membership, so there's some strong feelings on both sides of this. And we want to be sensitive to both sides of it as we move forward, and we'll do that. I'll be talking in a couple of minutes about our plans going forward to engage the membership in some focus groups. We'll be doing that in October, hopefully with some additional information here. So more on that to come later in this video. But before we go there, Tim, next question to you. Since the annual meeting, we've reached out to Gil Hance, and I think you and Frank specifically have had some conversations with them. And I wondered if you could just share with the membership how those conversations went and what the key points are.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. They're extremely busy. They're doing a lot of golf course renovations, in particular the Country Club at Brookline for the 2022 US Open. So they are actually responding to us very well with what they can do, and they can't do this in a one-shot deal. They have to break this out into two, maybe three, possibly, or 2022, 2023, 2024. We don't know. So the original project, or the plan that they gave us, was 3 holes in 2022 with minimal disruption, 18, 17, and 16.
Thanks, Tim. And so we plan on sharing some additional information on this, but really big picture, why Gil Hance? Why do we want to move forward with Gil?
He is the #1 golf course designer in the country right now, and possibly the world. The USGA is engaging him in every US Open redesign, getting the US Open golf courses ready for major events. And we're never going to host a major event. We know that. But we have him because if you look at the schedule, South Fork was the first golf course that he designed. And he has an affinity for us. So he wants to help us. And we don't want to lose that connection.
Yeah, and he has already touched 12 out of our 18 holes. He designed our short game area. And so we really do feel like having him complete this and being able to have a 18-hole golf course designed by Gil Hance enhances South Fork for the future. And that's very much something that's on the board's mind at all times, is really trying to balance current day with the future. And so that's very much why we have Gil Hance front of mind. Tim, we have some issues on that back nine that we have to address. Frank has raised the issue of the sprinkling system as a for instance. You've talked to the board at length about some of the limitations for pin placements on greens because of the size of the greens and the slope of the greens. So Wonder if you could talk a little bit about that to the membership.
Sure, thanks, Tim. The greens on the back nine are not up to USGA specifications. They are not irrigated well. They're too small. There's not enough pin placements. Now, maybe for a membership of 100 players, you're okay with that. But for the quantity and the density that we have, we don't have pin placements on 17. We can't put any pins on the left-hand side of the green because of the slope. 10 is very difficult. 11 is very difficult. So the pins are always in the same places. And if we put them someplace else, then we get complaints that they're too difficult. So the greens need to come up to speed. We have to do that anyway at some point and bring them up to USGA standards, which would be we could do the design, redesign, as well as the greens in one shot.
Yeah, and if I were the architect, of course, I would have the greens all sloping toward the hole so that it would just make it that much easier, but I'm never consulted in these matters.
It does make a lot of sense, folks, because we have a lot of irrigation we have to do on both sides. And if you really think about it, when we're all out there, we're playing 10, 13, 17, we all know that the pin only works on one side of the green. It's unfair if it's on the other. And you can imagine all of the traffic with a membership of 383 people that are back and forth over limited areas. It means trouble at some point for us, irrigation. It makes a lot of sense to wrap this all up and do it all at one time. Within the realm of what Gil Hance can do and when he can do it.
I think it's also important unsurprisingly, the overwhelming response that we got in the survey is that people wanted more information about the topics that Tim mentioned. And with the 16, 17, 18 renovations and the fact that Gil is not available to do more than that in 2022, 2 million is an estimate, but we would not need to borrow money in order to do that,
Right.
and we would maintain a very healthy reserve in our capital fund. I think that's important to mention.
It is, and thanks for bringing that up, Jeannie. One additional quick question while we're on the topic of Gil Hance, and John, maybe you can address this as a contractor, but there's a little bit of an art and a science with what he does out there. And even though he's going to be giving us a detailed plan of what he proposes to do, he's still the guy out there on the bulldozer and sometimes takes some artistic license based on his feeling when he's out there. I wondered if you could just talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's true. He is an artist, moving dirt is an art, and shaping dirt is really an art. It's difficult to understand until you're actually out there doing it. We do quite a bit of it. We have a number of members that were our original founders who were in the dirt moving business. Gil Hance is an expert. He could show up at any moment and change anything he wants on the golf course relative to how he sees it. This is all really his vision. So I think it's really important to give him artistic license, within the scope of whatever the work is that he's doing.
Yeah, thanks. So, Jeannie, one of the themes, as I mentioned earlier, that we got from the survey is disruption. And really, to paraphrase a number of members, it was sort of I only have so many months in the year that I get to play. Please don't take the course away from me. And so one of the things that the board is really thinking about is trying to manage that disruption. I wondered if you could comment on that.
Well, if we were to do this, the work would not start until mid-September. I got that right, Tim? Okay. And that would be September 2022. And it would we would anticipate be completed by the end of May in 2023. So the disruption would be 16, 17, 18 would be out of commission for that period of time. The remaining holes on the golf course would be available. How one would get routed around them is still up in the air. But I think also it's worth pointing out, and Tim can speak a little bit to this, Tim Garvin, we're not in the same position that we were a year ago in terms of density and how many people are playing. So I think it's important, hopefully, we're coming out of the woods in COVID, and we won't all have nothing to do except play golf outside ever. But maybe you can comment on the rounds, Tim?
Yeah, sure. The rounds of golf have diminished greatly. We are back to 2019 numbers as opposed to 2020 numbers. So people are going back to work, they're going back to the city, they're playing less rounds of golf, so the disruption is actually minimal.
Yeah, and we've always seen that October, November, April, May, there's a substantially reduced volume of golfers out there. And of course, that doesn't minimize for those that do want to play. I'm not trying to do that, but when we look at the number of rounds that our members play, really by the second week of September, they start to fall off dramatically, and for many of the same reasons that you just mentioned. Jeannie, relative to, we've talked about this a little bit, but let's just, put a period at the end of it. What's the board's disposition on the balance of the work right now? Do we have a plan? What are we thinking?
Well, we don't have a plan. We know that we don't know how much it would cost. We know that it can't be done until at the earliest after the summer season in 2023. And I think that, one of the things, I know that there are some people who are disappointed that Gail is not available to do the whole thing in one shot in 2022, but one of the advantages to that is that we have time. If we do 16, 17, and 18, we have time to figure out what is our capital budget looking like, what's our pipeline of additional capital money looking like, how are we solving the housing problem, how much is that costing. So it gives us a bit of a breather to potentially do something constructive and also figure out where we are and where we want to go with a little bit more information, or actually a lot more information than we have right now.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that perspective. I wanted to comment a little bit about the process that we're going to go through here, because we really want to get additional feedback from the membership. So one of the questions that we asked on the survey was for volunteers, for focus groups. Happy to report we got an overwhelming number that were willing, 87 to be exact. And that's probably a little more aggressive than what we had in mind, but we're going to try to do 3 focus groups in October. There'll be small group focus groups. We'll have Hannah in the room to help us record the disposition of the membership. Probably an hour-long focus group. We're going to be primarily listening there, looking for feedback, perspective, so that as we continue to go through this process, we factor in the member feedback. I do want to say one thing about the focus groups, however, and that is that we are not looking for amateur golf course designers, lest you end up with the green that I just described. Look, we all love the course. We all love talking about this. It's something that we talk about. Probably Lou has heard every possible configuration imaginable at this club. So that isn't really the direction of the focus groups. We're looking more for feedback about positives, negatives associated with your feelings about the overall idea about doing this, why we're doing it, and so forth. Not your idea about the placement of the green on number 16 or whatever the case might be. So just to be fair.
Hey, can I step in for a second?
Of course.
So we actually, based on the original design that most of the members looked at, that design is going to change. Okay, so They are currently redoing the design for 18, 17, and 16, especially the green work, to furnish us something new, okay, as far as what Gil's vision is. So what we could say about the old design or the old map is it's not relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've had those conversations with them. We're waiting for specific designs. We plan on sharing those designs with the membership as well as the final cost. We're pretty comfortable that if anything, we're high in the cost just based on the work that was done here previously and some of the preliminary conversations that we've had. But we don't have the final numbers even for the first 3 holes, and we won't even have a chance to talk to them about the remaining holes until they could tell us that they would be available to do it. So we're not going to have the holistic plan to put a bow around that we had hoped to here, but we will. We do think there's some positives associated, as Jeannie pointed out. There's some real positives associated with taking this in bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, one thing that I would say though, for those of us who play on either the red or the gold tees, 16 will have a new tee box for us.
Yay.
All right.
All right, excellent. So John, that's kind of what we had to talk about in terms of the back 9 reno. I don't know if we missed anything, Jeannie or Tim, that you wanted to add, but John, I was going to give you the last word, just to talk about where we are and where we're going here.
Sure. So I just ask everyone to be very patient as we wait to get our information. I've heard quite a bit about, perhaps a lack of transparency. I see it differently. It's more a discipline that we have on the board, which is we don't want to give out information we don't have, and it's taking a lot of time. And, COVID has stymied a lot of us in the construction business. It would just be better if we were all patient, we got the information properly, we disperse the information. If you feel like you're not getting information, it's because we don't have it. That's really the bottom line. Otherwise, I couldn't be happier with the way the club has operated this year and the management team has operated. I'm grateful to everybody who's participated in that and made it such a great summer for all of us. I think we're all very fortunate.
Great, thanks for that, and thanks to everybody, and see you all on the course.
Thanks.
Thanks.